care to preach, but enjoy preaching when the Lord comes by. And but I've got a thought on my mind tonight, and I may not be too long, but we do appreciate everyone that's here and the way the Lord's moved tonight. And I feel like somebody's already got help. And, but would turn your Bible to the book of Genesis, chapter 41. I desire your prayers tonight. Genesis 41, and we'll start reading at verse 1. It says, "And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years, that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine, and fat-fleshed, and they fed in the meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and the lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. And he slept, and he dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon the stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears did devour the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that the spirit of Pharaoh, his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, all the wise men thereof, and Pharaoh told them the dreams, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh." In verse 14, it says, "Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment, and he came unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there are none that can interpret it. And I have heard saying of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace." And then in verse 25, it says, "And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years, and dream is one. And the 7 thin and the ill-favored kin that come up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showed unto Pharaoh." Thank you for standing for the reading of the word. I thought as I began to think on this, and as I began to think about tonight, and it's coming up on the Christmas season, and all the things and the plenteous things that we have, and I thought I ran into a guy before church. I had to run to Richmond, and had to run down to work for a minute, and we came back by Walmart, and I ran into a fellow I work with, and he began to talk about Christmas and all the things he had to buy, and how that Christmas you just buy a gift for somebody, they buy you a gift, and you just exchange gifts. Right. And he said, I would just soon to go in and shake their hand and sit down and eat dinner with them and let that be Christmas. Yeah. And I said, well, the problem is nobody really needs nothing no more. We are living in a fat time, if you would. Yes, we are. And I thought, but here in our text, we read of the dream that Pharaoh had, and God showed Pharaoh that there was a famine coming. I thought as I began to think about this today, we heard the Spirit speak to our pastor this morning that there was a harvest coming. And I'm very much confident that word from God. And I thought we were looking for that. And I thought Pharaoh, as the Lord spoke to, gave him this dream, he began to tell him of the things that were taking place, and that there was going to plenteous for 7 years. And I thought, as we look upon our world and our nation, and we see all the things that's going on, I thought we know that there's some things that's fixing to take place. Some things that we don't necessarily want to happen, but we know that they're going to take place. But the thing that we've got to look at is the promises of God. Amen. And God said that there was going to be some things happen. God said there's going to be a harvest. God says there's going to be a plenteous coming our way. And I thought, and I'm looking for that. But I thought, throughout those times, once they're happened, I thought there's going to be a time whenever we're going to see some hardships. We're going to see some hard times. And I thought, but I thought we still got to have faith and we've got to trust in God. I thought it's important that we trust in God. I thought I read a little story, and I may have shared it at some other time here, but I can't remember. And but it said that a man was drafted into the armed forces, and the reason I'm saying this is a lot of times people are looking for an easy way out when it comes to God. They're looking for God to just like a magician, just wave his magic wand and all of our problems be fixed. But we got to realize sometimes our problems are to our making. And I want God will help us through those problems, but He ain't going to just take them away when we are to blame for some of the problems. And but I read a story here, and it said that a man was drafted into the armed forces, and he didn't really want to go, and which I can probably understand that. And I never was in the military, but if you're drafted, then most time you're drafted into a time of war. And but it said that wherever he went, he would stop, and if he came up on a piece of paper, he'd pick it up, he'd look at it, he'd shake his head, and then he'd walk on. And his sergeants and the generals and all these his superiors began to notice this, and he would pick up that piece of paper and he'd shake his head, and he'd look disappointed, and he'd walk off, throw it down. And finally they began to get concerned about this young man, and they called him in, and they began to examine him and ask him all those things, and finally they gave him a medical discharge, and they brought him in and they handed him that piece of paper, and he opened it up and he read it, and he said, I finally got what I was looking for. The thing was, he was wanting out of the situation that he was in. And I began to think about it. There's been times that I've been in some situations, Brother Ewell, that I really wanted out of. But I thought, but I had to trust in God. I had to trust in the plan of God. And as I begin to think about this, Pharaoh is one that had the dream. He was over Egypt. Egypt is not God's chosen people. But God gave Pharaoh a dream of what was fixing to take place. There's fixing to be some fat years. You're going to have 7 years, and there's going to be plenteous. But there's 7 lean years coming in here that's going to consume everything that you've saved up. And but God gave Pharaoh this dream, and he told him, and you look and you wonder, well, why didn't? And then we see where then Israel has to go, and all this is in God's plan. We know the story of Joseph being sold into slavery, and he's there in Potiphar's house, and he was lied on, and now he finds himself in prison, and all the things that happens to him, and he interprets a few dreams, and then they surely he's going to get out, and then they forget about old Joseph again, and so here he is, and over in Egypt, and his family's out there, and there's a famine coming, and you would think God would go over here, and he would make things plenteous over here where Israel's at, and make things all comfortable over there. But it's different. He goes all the way around, and he brings all of Israel over into Egypt. And it's all in the plan of God. And I thought sometimes we look and we say, Lord, why didn't you move this way? Or, Lord, why didn't you move this way over here? But it's still in the plan of God. God has a plan for us. And I thought that sometimes we got to go through some difficult times in order to see the fulfillment of the plan of God. I thought we look back and I've told it before, and you all know it, but we had just moved to where we're at now 20-something years ago, right around 20 years ago, and Sister Kathy's job played out, and so we went into a one-family income, and things were difficult. We went through some hard times, but through this, whenever she first got sick, and she was drawing some short-term disability there, and then we went ahead. We decided we was going to homeschool the children, and all those things, and I thought we went through some difficult times. We went through some hard times. We went through some situations that really, as a father and her as a mother, we would really rather not went through some of those hardships. We would like to have been able to provide other things for our families that other kids had and that they would like to have had and we couldn't afford. We would have liked to have done all those things. But we look at the basics, and God took care of every need we had. And I thought, and I look around and I thought, Lord, why did she have to get sick? And all those things. And I thought, but when we looked at it, I thought, here she was drawing this much of a salary. Then she gets sick, and she's drawing some short-term disability for a while, so she's only getting 80% of that salary. So God slowly weans us down to the place where we can take care of things. And then we look, and I have my IRA at work, and I look, and if I had left all that in there, I'd have a whole lot more retirement than what I've got to look forward to now. But then God made a way that we was able to get some of that and pay off all the bills and the unnecessary things that we had, car payments and different things. God provided for us, and He worked everything out in His plan.
All right.
And I thought, but a lot of times we look and we think we've got all the plan laid out.
Yes, sir.
But I thought God's plan is always perfect.
Amen.
Always perfect. Not one time. I thought, I might as well put these up. I'm not even using them. But I thought, God's plan has never failed me.
Amen.
And like I said, there's been times that I have created situations, and God helped me through them.
Yeah.
He didn't take the problem away, or He didn't clear the situation out, but He helped me take care of the situation that I was facing. And I thought, as I began to think about that, and like I said, I didn't think I'd preach long, and I've got a lot of notes here that I don't even feel like using them. But I thought, whatever the situation that you're in, I thought God knows it. And God understands it.
Yes, sir.
And I thought He is going to help you through that situation.
Yes, sir.
But realize what I said, He's going to help you through it.
Yep.
And I thought, but you've got to fully trust in God. You've got to fully depend upon God to take care of this situation. And as they come against the song, I don't know exactly who I'm talking to. I got a good idea. But I thought, God knows everybody's situation.
All right.
And I thought He is willing to be there. But He wants you to be there for Him also. He wants you to be there for Him.
All right.
I thought, I've got a guy that works there at work, and found out the other day, believe it or not, someone's actually been listening to this on Facebook. They told me, I listened to you. Why would you want to listen to me? And I'm just glad they work with me every day and still got enough confidence to listen to me. Thank you.
Yes.
But anyway, the guy came, and he was in some hardships. And I understood that. And one day he said, man, I ain't got enough money to get to work tomorrow. And I said, well, what do you need? And I don't have a lot of money, but at that time I actually had a little cash on me. And he said, well, $20 would get me through to payday. I said, all right. So I handed him $20. And a few days later, he paid me back. And then a month or so later, he came back man, about a week later, I guess it was, 2 weeks, $20. I handed him $20. He paid me back. But then, finally he come and he said, I need to borrow some money again. I handed him $20. That's been about 3 months ago. He never did pay that $20 back. And I thought, he's always got a hardship, but he ain't come and asked me to borrow $20 no more. And me being that person I am, if he asked, I'd probably loan it to him again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I would. And but the thing was, is he began to tell me some of his situation, and I thought, but you're not doing nothing to help take care of that problem. And have trouble with the landlord and all these things. And I'm like, but you're not taking care of the problem. And I'm willing to help you. And that guy says he's willing to help you, but you're not willing to help yourself. And I thought, when we get willing to help ourselves, and we can trust God, and we say, all right, Lord, here I am. You see the situation, and I'm willing to surrender to you and surrender myself to you. God will take care of the situation.
Amen.
He always does.
Amen.
He never has failed. And I'm speaking from experience tonight. Because I know that I'm serving a God that's able. As they come against the song tonight, this altar's open. And I want you to come to this altar tonight and just give it totally over to God. And He'll take care of the situation. As they sing tonight, let's come to this altar. Give it to God tonight. Give it to God. Totally surrender it over to a God that is able. There's a lot of things, a lot of people that you can go to and they say, oh, I'm able to help. But they got limitations. But God has no limitations tonight. He's willing to help.